Episode 95. A wealthy man is a man too dangerous. Sheila informed Jade about her grandmother, seeking her presence. "What? I'm not busy. I'll be right there." Jade was overjoyed to hear the news. Oh my God, her grandmother finally woke up. After hanging up the phone, she quickly got out of bed in excitement. She was suddenly at a loss. "Put on your slippers." Dario frowned when he saw that she was barefoot. He carried her back and was surprised that Jade hugged his neck with a smile on her face. "Mr. Foster, did you hear the news? Sheila said my grandma is awake. I'm so happy. Mr. Foster, thank you." She even took the initiative to kiss him, but she immediately calmed down and wanted to retreat. Dario hugged her tightly again. "I'm sorry, Mr. Foster, I was too excited." "Let's go. I'll take you to the hospital." Dario held her hand. He smiled when he saw how happy she was. Jade was a little surprised that Dario said he would take her to the hospital. He was always so quick to know what he wanted to do. "But Mr. Foster, you still have work to do." "I can finish my work later. Your grandma is my grandma." "All right, you can change your clothes first. Forget it. Sit tight. I'll get you some clothes." As soon as he finished speaking, Dario turned around and went to look for clothes in her closet. Jade's heart was warm. She originally wanted to go by herself, but she hadn't expected that Dario would want to take her to the hospital. She was very touched by how deeply he cared for her grandmother. Because it was Jade's time of the month, Dario especially found her a pair of pants and a thicker shirt. Even her underwear didn't have a steel ring. When she changed her clothes, she was a little embarrassed. "Why are you looking at me? You should change your clothes." Dario pursed his lips and pointed at the clothes he had chosen. Jade bit her lower lip. After a long time, she shouted angrily, "Mr. Foster, you are still here. How am I going to change my clothes?" "I can help you change your clothes." Jade almost fainted. According to him, she didn't want to go out. No need. In the end, Jade had no choice but to quickly take her clothes to the bathroom. She even locked the door. After changing, the two of them left immediately. When they arrived at the hospital, Jade realized that her grandmother had been moved into a very good ward. It was like a suite and had everything she needed. The place was very big, clean, and luxurious. Thinking back to the ward with many other people that her grandmother used to live in, Jade remembered that there was a smell every time she went in. It made her feel very uncomfortable. When Jade arrived, her grandmother had already fallen asleep. Looking at her peaceful, sleeping face, Jade finally let out a sigh of relief. Jade hadn't seen her grandmother for a long time, and she noticed that her complexion had improved. She remembered that Suzanne Winslet had threatened her to not have the surgery performed for her grandmother, which had frightened her. When her grandmother had finally woken up, Jade looked at Dario with gratitude. If it wasn't for him, her grandmother wouldn't have been so good. "Has she been sleeping a lot?" Jade asked in a low voice. Sheila nodded. "Yes, she woke up for a while today and kept talking about you. I let her rest and said that you would come very soon." Sheila then noticed the man behind Jade, who had an extraordinary bearing. She couldn't help being startled for a moment. The only person Jade had brought in the past was her friend named Violet. Sheila wondered why Jade brought a man that day. He seemed like an unusual man. Sheila felt that it was a little strange, so she asked curiously, "Jade, who is he?" Jade was just about to say that Dario was the one who had paid for her grandmother's hospitalization fees, but Dario was ahead of her and said seriously, "I'm Jade's husband, Dario." Jade's heart skipped a beat. She didn't expect that he would tell her directly that he was her husband. "Dario, are you the one who hired an expert doctor for Jade's grandma?" Sheila asked in surprise. She hadn't expected that the person who helped Jade's grandma would be Jade's husband. "It was the least I could do," Dario lightly replied. "Jade, is this true? Does your aunt know about this?" Sheila was very surprised. She remembered that she hadn't seen Jade for a while. Why was Jade married to this man? There is no need to let them know. As soon as Suzanne came up, Jade's expression darkened, and her tone became terrifyingly cold. Sheila saw that her expression wasn't right and didn't know what to say. She also knew about how Jade's family treated her, but she was still worried, so she pulled her to the side. She softly said, "Jade, this is a big deal. You should discuss it with your grandma. You got married in such a hurry. Marriage is a lifetime thing." Do you and Mr. Foster know that? Don't worry, Sheila. Mr. Foster is a good person. He is very good to me. As Jade spoke, she couldn't stop her face from blushing, especially since that morning he'd given her fruit juice, brought her sanitary pads, and washed the sheets. She felt fortunate to have married such a good man. I know he is good, but look at how handsome he is. And he must be very rich to have been able to pay so much for your grandmother's medical fees. I'm worried about you. Sheila looked at Jade with anxiety. She was afraid that Jade was young and insensible. She worried that Jade had been deceived. Although Sheila was the only nurse of Jade's grandmother, the two of them had always been able to talk. They had a certain amount of affection for each other, so Sheila felt she had to intervene. Sheila, what are you worried about? Jade asked doubtfully. She blinked her eyes. Sheila was almost speechless. She held her hand and was rather helpless. You silly girl, look at how handsome he is and how rich he is. There must be many women around him. I'm afraid that you will suffer. Jade carefully thought about her words. It turned out that Sheila was worried that Dario would have an affair. Jade immediately smiled indifferently and said with some confidence, It won't happen. Don't worry, Sheila. Don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. The people around him saw him as an honest and upright man. He was almost treated as though he were gay. How could there be another woman? Jade wasn't worried at all. But it was a fact that he was very attractive and that he caught the eyes of many people when he went out. Amelia Stevens was just one example. Although Jade hadn't known him for that long, she believed that he wasn't that kind of person. Sheila heard what Jade said and didn't say anything else. After all, it was Jade's concern. But Sheila was still a little worried for her. Everyone said that the wealthy class was deep, like the sea. She wasn't sure how rich Dario was, but he must have been very wealthy to have taken out tens of thousands all at once for surgical fees. He seemed that he couldn't have been on the same level as ordinary people like them. Sheila was most afraid because she was young and her mind was pure. Marrying a man like Dario made it very easy to be cheated on, and there would likely be some unavoidable trouble, since he must have a lot of women around him. She would much rather that Jade played it safe and found an ordinary person.